Rock. What Uncle Hayes knew. What Uncle Hayes knew. Doug Brock.
Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. I can't sing. I certainly can't sing like Uncle Hayes' songs, but I can sing for the same reason my Uncle Hayes sang. He sang because it made him happy. Uncle Hayes took little steps every day to be happy. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, we'd hear that voice out in the garden and we'd run to the fence, yell, "Uncle Hayes!" He'd stop singing and poke his head up from in the vegetables. He wore a hard safari hat, an old pith helmet when he was out in the garden. He was like a hillbilly archaeologist. Every family's got a character. Ours was Uncle Hayes. He'd grow bushels and bushels of vegetables. He'd keep some for himself and Aunt Ruby, but mostly he'd share them with the family, because doing things for the family made him happy. I was a 13-year-old kid. I had a big mutt that we couldn't keep in our backyard. Uncle Hayes was going to help me build a pen for the dog, so we spent the day in the hot sun digging holes and setting big wooden fence posts in the ground. And we reached the point where we were going to attach the fencing to the front of the posts, and we knew we had a problem. I was a scrawny teenager. Uncle Hayes was an old man. We couldn't pull that fencing taut. So Uncle Hayes, like always, knew to take another step. He hatched a plan. Our family, Uncle Hayes' plans were legendary, mostly because they did not end well. We decided to connect the fence to the bumper of the pickup truck and use the truck to pull the fence tight. Uncle Hayes said, "Jump in there, inch the truck up." I was 13. I said, "Uncle Hayes, I don't know how to drive." He said, "It's easy. Give it a little gas and let the clutch out slow." Like a giddy teenager, I jumped in that truck and looked down at the speedometer. I expected it to give me some kind of instructions or guidance. It didn't. I revved the engine and popped the clutch and lunged forward with that truck, jerking every fence post out of the ground. Uncle Hayes, he just laughed. It was not a bumper day for either Uncle Hayes' plans or my self-esteem as a 13-year-old. Uncle Hayes was always old. I don't remember him any other way. He was a little worn out, weathered, wrinkled. He was missing a couple of fingers from accidents when he was young. And he was poor as well, I think. He never had a job or a career to speak of. He'd do odd jobs. He'd trade trinkets or tools or cars, anything to make a little money. He was like a one-man flea market. But I don't think you'd call him entrepreneurial or a visionary. Uncle Hayes didn't have a business plan. He had a survival plan. He and Aunt Ruby didn't have much. They had an old wringer washing machine down in the basement. They were pretty simple. And I remember Aunt Ruby would sing as Uncle Hayes cranked clothes through that washer. Ruby's singing was one more thing that made Hayes happy. Hayes was just as happy as he was old. But his happiness was not accidental. Just like he worked cranking clothes through that washer, he worked at being happy. I have a 15-year-old son. His name's Seth. I'm teaching him to drive. Seth likes to look at the speedometer. I know from experience it will not tell you how to drive. How many of you have sat in the passenger seat teaching someone to drive? All you can do is hold on and maybe pump your imaginary brake. I'll sit and Seth's driving and the car will weave a little to the left or a little to the right, I'll look over at him and he's grinning like a teenager, staring at the speedometer. Who cares about mailboxes or the ditch or oncoming traffic as long as you know how fast you're going? He'll look at me and say, "Stop staring, Dad, you're making me nervous." Him nervous. But how many of us approach life in a similar way? In that we want to accomplish something, but we're afraid to take a step. Or we get so caught up on the goal, the speedometer, the big thing, that we don't enjoy each and every step along the way. Somehow Uncle Hayes knew how to make things happen and to be happy doing it. He didn't always make what he planned happen, but he made something happen because he was willing to take a step. I hope I can pass that trait on to my kids and share it with you all tonight. That you don't have to have the perfect plan. You just have to be willing to take a step. If Uncle Hayes was here, he'd say, jump in there, inch that plan. Madam Contractor.